Welcome back, y'all. First thing on the list is we're gonna get the pig fence ready, and I'm gonna turn these pigs out this morning. Before I do anything though, I gotta walk around the fence and make sure that we've got good power and all that. So I'll show you what we got going on out here. So right now, our pigs are able to come out into this lot right here. Just this little bitty lot. And that was somewhat to get them used to the electric wire. Because as you can see, I got woven wire around the edge of it all here. So even if the electric wire, which is right there, even if that was, for some reason or other, power not quite right on it, they still ain't gonna get out. Plus they ain't gonna get out while they're training to the electric wire. But before I even get started, I'm gonna test this fence here, because see, this is just 2 strands of electric wire that runs all the way out the side of the hill out there, and it covers probably about 1.5 acres to 2 acres of land. And it's all really steep, rocky land. And we fenced it in, I don't know, a couple years ago. But I always want to make sure I got really good power on this fence the very first time they come out, because they don't know exactly where that wire's at. And if they run into that wire and I don't have good power on it, I mean, it wouldn't be nothing for them to get out of it. Before I get anything started at all, I just want to see what we're working with now, see what kind of power we got. 3.7, oh my goodness. That's terrible. That means we gotta have a dead ground somewhere. I feel like I hear it popping right over yonder, inside the pig lot. Yeah, there's a little bit of dirt pushed up against that, but that's not enough to cause it to short out. And it looks like that wire right there, the insulator's come off and it's wrapped around the back side of that post. I'll have to fix that too. And I'm just checking this wire right here around this lot first, just because it's the easiest to get to. And it's the place where they've been, so, I mean, you know, it's always the potential they've rooted something up against it. But right here's a problem. My wire is touching my hog lot wire there. So I'm gonna go get this fence unplugged, and I'm gonna fix all these little spots, and then we'll get back at it. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea for me to put an insulator in between that wire right there. I might twist this around just to make it a little tighter. But it's not touching now. I don't feel like that was my only place it was shorting out, so we'll walk around the rest of it and see. It always amazes me at how much cooler it is when you get out into the woods. It feels good out here. Still not seeing nothing yet though that would be causing me to have a problem. Come on, Tiger. All right, I walked around the whole thing. I mean, I picked off a few things that would do something to the power, but nothing that I thought was a big problem. So I'm gonna plug it back in here, see what we get. Hopefully over there where it was touching the fence was enough to kill it. Evidently it was. We got 9.9 now. Perfect. Well, now it's time to see if we can't lure these pigs out here. This is always the fun part. They're always scared to come through this gate right here because there's usually an electric wire across it, and if you know anything about a pig, once they learn there's an electric wire somewhere, they won't cross that area even if they don't see the electric wire there. So that's the whole reason. Let me show y'all what we got. That's the whole reason we have this gate here instead of just that electric wire connection right there, because they can see that gate open and then hopefully they'll come through it. So for now, that's where our water is going to live at, and that's going to kind of make them come out here, or at least make them stay out of the building, because I guess before they had no reason to stay out of it. They had water in there and they had their feed in there. Well, with this water out here now, they're going to have to come outside to get this. All right, we got it full enough. Come on, piggies. Here, piggies.
Tiger, what are you doing?
Come on. Come on.
Tiger, could you find it?
Come on, piggies.
Could you find it? Please, Jacob.
Yeah, sometimes this is a challenge right here, just to get them out this door. Once they get out the door,
You're
it's
good.
usually all right.
Just give them time, patience. We had some one time, it took them, 2 days to get out, didn't it?
Yeah, I believe you're right. Like, we got them out, but then as soon as they realized they was out there, they'd turn around and run back in.
But these pigs, they're like, oh, I like it.
If one of them just gets brave enough to step where that wire was.
Tiger, what'd you have?
Well, they may come back out eventually.
Oh yeah, they'll see that green stuff. They'll make their way out here.
Hopefully so.
See,
I mean, here they come back, but I don't know.
You know what?
This right here can either go. I think we've had years where this trying to get them out went like no problem. What in the world?
He's playing with quality. You ain't never seen him do that?
No. I never seen him do that before.
You ain't. He used to do that to them cows too.
I'm surprised on that. Ty said, why?
Yeah, maybe they'll come out here in a minute.
Oh yeah. So we thought while we were sitting here waiting on them, we would go through and answer some of our most asked questions. We hadn't done something like this in a while, and well, one of our most asked questions is usually like how long we've been together, and by the time you see this, it'll be our anniversary, our 12th wedding anniversary. So we said, what better time to
Answer that question.
to answer that question. Yep. Yeah, so we're coming up on our 12th wedding anniversary, and we've been together since 2008.
Been a while.
Been a long time.
It has.
But
I feel like we've been together longer than we've been without each other.
we're getting to that point.
We're getting close.
Yeah, we're getting close to that point because I was 18, so
Yeah, and I was 20. What?
21. Another question we get a lot is about planting by the signs, and do we plant by the signs? And so my opinion on that, like, we kind of use them as a recommendation, but not a must.
Yeah, we do it when we can, but y'all, in all honesty, you plant it when you got time to plant it.
Yeah, and when the ground's
When the ground will let you plant it.
yeah. So that's kind of the way we feel about that. Now, I know, like, my grandpa, he wouldn't walk out of the house unless the signs were right.
Yeah.
So, you know, some of them old timers really went by it. And I'm not saying there's nothing to it, because I do think there is something to it.
I think it is too. I mean, I've seen noticeable differences in stuff when we do plant by the signs or when we don't. But still at the same time,
Yeah.
it's just hard to follow the signs all the time.
You got to do it when you can do it.
You just got to do it when you can do it.
Yep. So that's something, I mean, I guess that's all personal preference. If that's something that you want to do, but honestly, I wouldn't get too hung up on it.
No, I wouldn't either.
No.
If you can plant by the signs, then by all means do it. But I wouldn't.
That's not something that we strictly follow by. Like I said, it's more of a recommendation than a must do.
Yep.
So, people ask all the time about all these vehicles that sit in the driveway.
They all belong to Megan. Every one of them is
I thought that
Megan's.
would be a fun one to ask.
The only thing I have is that little old white Nissan truck sits up there. That's the only thing is mine.
Oh my
The rest
gosh.
is Megan's.
Y'all really believe that, don't you? But
I think what our problem is with vehicles is most people, when they get another one, they sell one, and
we don't let them go.
I hang on to them and I just leave them here, and I don't know. They
And
all
it's
got
not
their
like
purpose.
it's not like we went and bought them all at the same time or anything like that.
There's half them vehicles up there I've had since before I met you.
Yeah. So
So
yeah, they've just kind of accumulated through the years, and in the county we live in, it's very cheap to have a vehicle on the road. So it's not something, especially older.
Yeah.
I mean, the only new thing we've got up there is that Nissan Titan, and it's not even new anymore.
the most expensive vehicle I've got to keep on the road is that white Ford dump truck, and that one is pretty much here for my business more than anything else. But that's the only reason I can justify keeping that one on the road.
Right.
But the rest of them, yeah, they're old. Like she said, except for the Nissan Titan, they're all old. They're all pretty cheap to maintain, and it's just nice having
a vehicle for every day of the week.
Well, not only that, it's nice to have one when something breaks down, because when you have old vehicles, they break.
Yeah, it's
and so when one breaks down, you're not done. You can just keep on the trucking. You get from one to the other.
Right. But that's just, I thought that was funny because we get that question so much, and y'all, it ain't just us. Like,
it's very common.
Yeah, like here. Around here where we live, like it's very common for people to have a lot of old vehicles. I mean, when I was growing up, when you were growing up, like our parents always had multiple vehicles. Most of them being older vehicles, but it just, I don't know. This is the way people do things around here. Like I said, they're cheap to keep on the road, so.
Yeah, insurance is cheap.
Yeah.
Tags are cheap,
and I know
they are going up, but they're still
like
cheap.
But I know it's not like
parts.
that. It's not like that everywhere.
Right.
Like it's expensive some places to
It
have vehicles. A big question we got on the recent video that we put out when we moved the chickens down to the creek is about aerial predators and our chickens. And aren't we worried about hawks and things like that? Because we do. I mean, we have plenty of hawks here, but those guineas really help, I think, with the aerial predators. And I think that's why we don't really have issues with it, because those guineas, and I've seen it with my own two eyes, they'll make a...
You got bored.
They'll make this different squawking noise. It's different than the regular squawking that you usually hear. And it's like those chickens understand whatever they're trying to say, and they'll all go under that little chicken house. And I mean, it's just like in a split second, they're like...
You know, it was funny.
And plus the crows hang out with them.
They do. There's a lot of crows that hang out with those chickens. But the other night, the very first night we moved them down there, we kind of sat down there and waited on them to go up, to shut the door. And the guineas run around and done like their aerial, not their aerial, they done their little check, trying to make sure everybody was in that house before the guineas actually went up. So the guineas in some ways are kind of like their little guard dogs.
Yeah, and you'll
kind of like what people use for a goose.
Yeah, and then you'll read, though, the thing with guineas is you'll read and hear all over the place that guineas and chickens do not get along.
No,
ours
do.
And I think ours do, because them guineas have always been with chickens.
That's true.
We raise them as chicks with little chicken chicks.
That's true.
And I think that's the difference, because you'll read that everywhere, that guineas and chickens don't get along, and them guineas do pick on them chickens a little bit, but they don't bother them enough for it to matter. But they do at night. They're usually the last ones up, them and the rooster, and they make sure everybody's in the house before they'll go up.
Yep.
But that's how we combat aerial predators. And plus, like I said, the crows, for whatever reason, like to hang out with the chickens. And if you don't know, crows and hawks do not get along, and them crows will run off hawks.
Yeah, we've watched them before.
Oh, yeah.
We have, you've heard us complain in the past about about crows pulling up corn. Well, at the same time, crows are somewhat of a good thing to have around too.
Yeah, especially if you have chickens. Another question that I get tickled about, and even Andy asked me after people started asking, was about my bacon grease sitting on my counter.
Oh, yeah, you do get that one a lot.
So, yes, my bacon grease, I don't refrigerate it. It stays on my counter. The reason being is my mama and both of my grandmas, they always kept theirs sitting like, them old stoves had that piece in the middle, there wasn't nothing, you know, and they always had their bacon grease sitting right there. And that's where it stayed. Like,
don't worry, y'all. It somewhat flipped me out the first time I noticed that she started doing that too.
But I've always done it.
I know, but when I mean, you know how I am. I don't pay attention to stuff like that.
But
and
when people started
somebody finally mentioned it in a comment, and I was watching, I was like, why are you leaving that out? Don't it ruin?
Yeah, I've never, I strain it. The little bacon grease container has a strainer, but before I even had that little container, I would strain it before I would put it in a jar. And if you strain most of those chunks out of it, I've never had bacon grease go bad. But now I use it too, so it's not like it just sits there.
It ain't like it sits there for a long time.
Yeah,
you're getting rid of it.
It gets used and like, but here anyway, my bacon grease keeps perfectly fine on the counter. The biggest thing is you just filter it before you leave it on your counter to get those bacon chunks out of it.
I mean, in a sense, it's somewhat like lard, ain't it?
I would think so.
And lard has to be clean in order to keep.
And some people, I've watched videos and I've read articles that there are people that say that lard has to be kept in the refrigerator,
really?
or it has to be frozen.
I ain't never heard that.
I've never ever kept lard in the refrigerator or frozen it, and it keeps fine. Even my jars that don't seal when I make it, even my jars that don't seal,
yeah, they still keep.
It still keeps just fine, right? And if it's pure lard and there's no
impurities,
it'll keep fine. Now, if it don't keep, you will know it in a minute. Like it'll
stink
to high heaven. Yeah. So that's something I wanted to address, was about that bacon grease. And that's why I do it, because that's what, I didn't know people even kept it in the refrigerator, honestly. Like, I didn't realize that was a thing. Like, I thought the bacon grease just supposed to sit there. Let's see. Another one is, a lot of people want to know about Tiger. What kind of dog she is, where she came from.
She's right there behind you.
Is she?
I'm not sure if the camera can see her, but she's right there. So Tiger was free. Tiger was a stray that showed up at a friend of ours' house.
And she was a puppy.
And she was a little puppy. And he posted a picture either on Facebook or Instagram or somewhere. And I just happened to be eating lunch one day while I was working, and I seen her. And, you know, obviously he was trying to figure out whose dog she was. I think about a week went by, and he made another post saying that dog, nobody had ever claimed that dog.
And they went to neighbors, they called the animal shelters. Yeah. They tried hard to figure out whose dog it was.
And I called Megan immediately. I was like, message them and see about, you know, if anybody's claimed that dog yet. And if not, I was like, because I thought she was beautiful. And I was like, tell them that, you know, we might take it. Well, nobody had claimed it, and nobody had said they wanted it. So later that evening, once I got home from work, we went over there and got her. And she was just wild as a jackrabbit.
Yeah,
little
yes,
puppy.
She was.
I mean, when we got there, she's running around the yard,
just lapping the house. Like...
And Maggie jumps out of the truck, and at this time Maggie's smaller than she is now. And that dog Tiger comes running up to Maggie and knocks her down on the ground. Maggie starts squalling, and I was like, this was a mistake. I don't want no dog that's going to be this wild.
Yeah.
You know, of course, like I said, she was still a puppy. So we went ahead and took her, and we was like, well, you know, if it don't work out, we can find somebody else to give her to. Well, the very next day, she's a totally different dog.
Yeah.
She's just as calm as she can be, but now she still has her wild spells.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But right here is what she does most of the time. She's either with us, or if she's not with us, she's laying on the back porch. And I have to say that she's by far probably the best dog I've ever had since I've been around. And
at the time when we got her, we had a little Maltese mixed dog that was... He was on his last leg, you know, and
he was also a stray.
Yeah, he was also.
He showed up here.
We saved him. Poor little thing, he'd have died if we hadn't fed him. He was in bad shape. You know, at the time when we got Tiger, he was very old. He was very old, and the kids really never were able to play with him because he was very ornery. He was old and ornery, so they didn't really have a dog to play with and to grow up with, because he would come outside to use the bathroom, but other than that, he wasn't about that life. Yeah. So the kids, you know, they fell in love with Tiger, especially a couple days later after we had her. They're the ones that named her Tiger. And we haven't taught her any of this stuff that she does. Like, that's her. She, like with the cows and stuff, she is so smart. And the chickens, like, she's never offered to kill a chicken. I was worried about that. You know, she'll hold them with her feet, but she won't, she ain't never offered to kill them.
She'll take a chicken and put her feet down like this over the chicken. And then I have seen her turn her head sideways and put her mouth down like that to kind of pin it down.
Yeah, like if they get
out. But
she
doesn't hurt that chicken. Because the very first time she done that, I was like, oh no, she's a chicken killer. And I just knew she was getting ready to just tear that chicken up. But she didn't. She held it there till we got there to pick it up. And I was like, you got to be kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, I had never seen a dog do anything like that.
And these cows, like, it's like she knows where they're supposed to go. And she keeps them cows, like, in line.
She does good. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's just her breed or if she's just a smart dog.
But the best we can tell, anyway, we've looked it up because, you know, she's a very unique looking dog. And the best we can tell, I believe she is what they call a Brindle Mountain Cur. And I don't know, we don't know if she was a reject hunting dog or if somebody set her out. Nobody knows. But, you know,
well,
she claimed
she's got a home now.
Yeah, she claimed us and we claimed her. And yeah, like Andy said, I believe she's probably the best dog I've ever had.
And I really think that, like, you know, she goes with the kids down in the woods or down to the creek or even just in the backyard. She's always watching them. And I really think by just watching her, look, she's like, y'all talking about me, I'm going to walk off. But watching her actions, I really think that she would fight.
I think she would
too. For the kids or anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. But she's, yeah, that's her story though. We've had her now for 2.5 years. Yep. Can you believe that?
It's flew, ain't it?
Yeah, 2.5 years.
Come here, girl.
But yeah, she's a good one. All right, the next one is one we got that I thought would be a good one to talk about is burnout. You know, a lot of people that especially have never lived this way, you know, I think they experience somewhat of some burnout because, you know, it's day in and day out, and a lot of the stuff is the same thing every day.
All the time.
All the time, you know. And when you go through stuff like that, burnout is a real thing. And so how do we deal with that?
I think me and you cope with it so good because, I mean, it does, don't get me wrong, it's like this with anything. There comes a time when you're just kind of like, oh, we got to go pick more tomatoes or we got to go move these cows or something like that. But, you know, it works great with me and you because you like fooling with the animals. I like fooling with gardening stuff. I mean, I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, if I was a single man, I would just have a big old garden.
Yeah.
And I probably wouldn't have any animals. I might have a pig or I might have a cow or something like that. But I wouldn't fool with much animals just because, like, my patience can run thin with an animal, and it's not something that I like. I enjoy it, but I don't like.
You don't like it like you like
the garden. I don't
garden.
obsess over it like I do a garden.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, I don't think I could ever get burnt out on anything that does with gardening because I love it so much.
Right.
But I think it all depends on, you know, you don't go into it thinking you got to do it all.
Yes.
You know, there's other people out there that can take care of all this stuff for you. Me and Megan just make a great team because I'll pick up where she don't like, and she picks up on the stuff I don't like to do.
Oh yeah, like moving the cows and stuff, and like milking that cow.
She loves it.
That's like my favorite part of the day.
And I mean, and I'll be flat honest with y'all. I could care less whether I ever moved another cow again. Chicken too. I don't like doing it, but we do it because we have to. But that's just me, you know.
Right.
But like I said, you enjoy that, so
yeah.
It works out good. It works out. Me and Megan make a good team.
Yeah.
And I have to say that both of us are lucky to have each other because we do make such a good team with each other. And it helps getting your kids involved.
Yes.
Because it is amazing.
They make it fun.
Well, they make it fun, and it's amazing just how much slack a kid can pick up.
Yeah. And
how much they can take off of your plate.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's just like these pigs. They usually come down here and take care of these in the evening. That's one less thing, you know, on the list to do. They like making the slop and feeding the pigs. And
yeah, I kind of come down in the mornings. I make my round every morning, and I come down here and just check, make sure everything looks good.
But you made a good point, and that's something I want to talk about, is you don't have to do it all.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, we have people ask a lot about, do you have bees? Why don't you have bees?
Because we don't want bees.
Yeah. I mean, it's just simple as that. We've got enough to do, and you know there are plenty of people around here that do have bees that make honey that we can buy.
So that's how you get burnt out, is doing the stuff you don't want to do. I guess that's the whole part of my conversation. What I just said was I was trying to lead up to that point. Doing stuff you don't want to do will get you burnt out faster than anything.
Yeah, if you can't stand raising pigs, don't. Somebody else can raise them.
Yeah, somebody else will raise them.
Well, it's like we don't raise piglets. We don't have the facility to raise piglets.
I got no interest in it.
And I ain't got no interest in raising piglets. You know, Rocky Ridge does a great job raising piglets. And, you know, we will continue to purchase our piglets from them as long as they got them. So, you know, that's just...
We've had people ask, why don't we have rabbits? Well, I don't want no rabbits. That's one more thing we got to take care of.
Don't care nothing about.
In my opinion, right now at this point, like, I don't want anything else extra that we've got to take care of.
Yep, we've got all we can stand.
I don't feel like we're overloaded, but I don't want nothing else to do.
Well, it's just like the meat chickens. There's some people that can't stand the smell or doing the meat chickens and stuff.
Don't bother you.
Well, it don't bother me, but some people, you know, if it does, look, they're getting brave. Oh, he's trying to steal him a piece. But if you don't like doing it,
just don't
a lot of people are doing it nowadays too.
You can, fresh chicken, at least around here, is fairly easy to find if you wanted to buy it.
I mean, you don't have to pay for it, but I think that's the best way to avoid burnout is make sure you're doing what you want to do and don't feel like you have to do it all. And I think people see us and they're like, well, Megan and Andy do all this stuff. We built on this through the years.
Yeah.
Like
this
is something.
A long, long time to get to where we are.
Funny story if y'all have never heard me talk about this before. But so when I was growing up, Mom and Daddy didn't really can or anything like that. Like Daddy would grow a little garden for us to eat out of some, you know, but it was never nothing like canning or anything like that, or preserving food for later. And so me and Andy got married, and I knew Andy had a garden up here. I would come up here and help him work in his garden even when your papa was living here.
Yeah, just a side note there. I've been gardening since I was probably Jacob's age. I've had me a garden somewhere or another ever since I was Jacob's age.
Andy plants this big old garden the first year we're married, and well, I mean, I help him. I do what he tells me to. I help him take care of it and everything. Well, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what I was doing.
It's just funny how you put that.
And well, then he comes in one day and he said, "Okay, Megan, this garden's ready to pick. Will you aim to do it?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you mean? Or what am I gonna do with it?" And so then, at that point, I went to your mama, and she kind of taught me how to can green beans and make strawberry jelly, and that was
some of the first things you did, wasn't it?
And that's where all this came from. And so that was the first year, and we've always had pigs, though. We've always had pigs, even back then. But you just slowly build on it through the years. I've not always had a milk cow. I didn't feel like I was ready for a milk cow because everything was so busy already. We've only been raising meat chickens for 5 or 6 years, and, you know, we slowly built on that. This is not something that all of a sudden, like, we get married, have this house, and, like, all head first into everything. You get good at one thing, get really good at one thing, and then you are at the point when that becomes second nature, then you add something else.
My biggest thing, or biggest piece of advice to anybody that wanted to start doing it, I wouldn't start with animals.
It's true.
I would start with a garden and start taking care of that, because at that point, if you let that garden go or you let that garden die, you haven't killed a
living
creature. Even though, like y'all, I feel just as bad for plants that are suffering as some people feel for animals that are suffering.
You should hear them when we go to the box stores and see the plants.
But in reality, like, I would start with a garden and make sure you're going to be able to take care of a garden. Once you figure out you can take care of a garden, then, I don't know, what'd you say, a chicken?
Chickens are probably
Chickens are fairly easy, especially if you've got a stationary coop and you're not trying to move them around.
Yeah.
You know, and that's if you want to start small. Don't jump into it and buy you a place and
buy you a bunch of pigs and a bunch of cows.
Buy a bunch of cows, pigs, and chickens.
If you've never done it,
and try to garden all at the same time, because you will get burned out real quick.
Yep, I agree. That's good advice.
And then for everybody who's always done it,
it's just
keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, just keep building on it from there. But I mean, you do have to realize, especially, I'm talking to some of these ladies out here, they're probably like I am, stressing about housework and stuff. You have to realize, especially busy seasons of life,
Sometimes your house gets messy, don't
sometimes that housework has to get put on the back burner. Now, I mean, of course, we always have clean dishes and a clean kitchen and, you know, bathroom, like the things that matter, but the floor don't get vacuumed every day.
it? Right.
You know, and sometimes that just has to
Now,
be what
if you
it'll
are
be.
talented enough that you can do all that and keep the house clean,
Yeah, good for
Good
you.
for you.
Because I ain't got that gene. But I don't know. I think that was some really good advice. Is there anything else? I mean, that's all my questions. Do you have any tips for anybody on anything?
well,
And the good thing about the gardening, like you said, you can still step away from that.
yeah, you can. And I think that's part of the reason I like plants so
If you
much.
want to go on vacation,
You can leave it.
you can leave it.
Chances are if you go on vacation, you better have that garden prepped
Well, to go.
when you leave.
Yeah.
And when you get back, you better be ready to work right back in it again, because things will change dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're only gone for a few days, when you come back, you're like, holy cow, look at them weeds out there. Or all of my tomatoes are ready to be picked or something.
And something, you know, gardening, you do have to work at it. Like
You
if
do.
you want some results from it, you're gonna have to put some work into it. It's not just you're gonna put a tomato plant in the ground and willy-nilly
It's going.
you're
all
gonna
of
have a
sudden
whole
tomato.
pile of tomatoes. You know.
You know, the biggest thing with gardening is, like she just said, you have to put the work into it. It's just like once the winter time is over with, I look at most of my big outside projects, they're done until next winter, because my main focus stays on gardening, and then we get into hay season, and then we get in, you know, it's going to be time to plant field corn and stuff like that. And at that point, I'm taking care of all that. And, you know, we might not record everything, but some bit of effort goes into something every day.
Every day. Yep, every day. And that's one more point I want to make, is don't get caught up on all these rules that you hear some people want to put out there. Like you have to stake up your tomatoes. That's one that just drives
We
me
used to
crazy.
not.
No, I'm saying like there are people that'll say you have to stake up your tomatoes, and somebody that's new to it like may make them nervous. Like, well, what if like I forgot to stake up my tomatoes and they're already too big? Guess what?
Let them grow on the ground.
They will grow on the ground just fine. We used to not even worry with staking them up. It just saves us room in the garden
Yeah, that's
to
the
have
main
them staked
reason.
up.
Which staking them up also keeps the vines from breaking over, and it keeps your fruit off the ground to the point where, you know, whatever might be on the ground ain't going to eat it. But
We grew our tomatoes on the ground for
we
years.
did. We grew them on the ground for a long time without
Yeah,
staking them up.
Yeah. But, you know, don't sweat the small stuff.
A matter of
like
fact,
that right there.
My mom and daddy still grow their tomatoes on the ground,
Yep.
and they have enough tomatoes every year.
Yep. Have plenty.
But yeah, I think, and the other thing is, I think a lot of people fail at gardening. I watch a lot of YouTube channels, especially with newer people, is everybody's always just like dead set on using everything and making it organic. And I totally get that. I do as much stuff as I can organically. But sometimes when you do that, you are, especially if you're new to gardening, you are setting yourself up for failure right off the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not going to take a tomato plant and dig a hole right here and put it in the ground and expect it to make a tomato.
Yeah. Or expect it to even live.
And you've got to put something by that tomato plant, whether it's synthetic fertilizer or some really good high quality compost, or even some manure, some chicken manure or cow manure, something. You've got to give those plants fertility.
Yep.
Because it's just like I seen on a video the other day. You know, a lot of people try to work with nature in growing their garden, and while that is a great mindset to have, you got to think we're dealing with plants that aren't grown in nature.
Yeah, they're not native plants.
They're
here.
not native plants, and most of them are hybridized plants that honestly probably wouldn't even be here if humans hadn't intervened with them. So those plants require nutrients and they require care. And I'm not saying that you can't eventually get your soil to where you can plant a tomato plant into it and it make you tomatoes. Because up there in our garden now, like if the time were to come, we've added so many amendments through the years. If the time were to come and we couldn't get our hands on some type of fertilizer, we could still get a harvest out of that garden.
But you ain't gonna plant it in this right here.
But you're not going to go out here and tear up a new piece of ground and expect it to grow.
Not here
right
anyway.
away. Yeah, not here. Maybe other parts of the country are different.
Yeah, not here.
But in this area right here, it's not happening because the soil everywhere is just naturally poor. It is just poor red clay soil that it'll grow stuff if you work it right.
Yeah.
But you're not just, like I said, you're just not going to go dig a hole and plant something and expect it to grow.
Yeah. Don't be scared of fertilizer.
And so, with that being said, if you did do that, and you're like, well, my land won't grow anything, I failed at gardening. That's totally the wrong mindset to have. You didn't fail, you just learned something. You just learned that your ground's not fertile enough to grow something, and you need to do something about it.
There you go. That's right.
Is that right?
Amen.
Does that sound encouraging?
Yeah.
But that's the truth. I mean, every failure you learn something from.
Yeah, it's not technically a failure as long as you learn something.
Yeah, my biggest recommendation to anybody, I have people ask, I have just local people ask about, well, I want to plant a garden this year. What do you recommend doing? And if you want to first start out planting garden, I think the absolute easiest way to do it is in a raised bed.
Yep.
If you're brand new and you know absolutely nothing about gardening, you've never worked soil a day in your life, the best thing you can do is get a raised bed and fill it full of some good, high-quality soil. And even then, you're still going to have to add something for fertility.
Yeah.
You can go to your local place and buy the absolute greatest compost they have. And you're still going to have to add some type of amendment to help out that soil.
Yeah.
Now, if you make your compost on your own and you've got some really high-quality compost that you've made on your own, you may not have to do that. But I'm saying if you go out and you buy products in a bag or go to the local mulch yard and they scoop you up some compost, you are going to have to add something to it.
I agree.
It's not just going to grow. Now, it may grow, but you're not going to get the harvest you could have if you had amended it with something else.
Right. That's right. And like Andy said, if you fail the first time or the second time or the third time, just make sure you're learning something.
Just keep on going.
That is the biggest mistake that I see even with people around here that want to garden and they say, well, I can't garden. I don't have a green thumb. There's no such thing as a green thumb.
No, I don't believe a green thumb. In my opinion, it's all in how much you want to pay attention to that garden.
Mm-hmm.
Or with these pigs, or to those cows, anything. It all requires an amount of attention that I don't think some people realize just how much attention it does require.
It's almost a 24/7 job.
It really is. But
I
wouldn't trade it for nothing in the world.
Yeah, if it's something, but if it's what you want to do and it's what you like to do, I mean, you don't work a day in your life. Just like I said about them cows, like working them cows is like that is my thing. Like I love fooling with them cows.
You know, the one old saying that always gets me is the slow and simple country life. I think that is the farthest thing from the truth that ever was.
It is. I know. I think
because
so too.
Anybody who thinks about moving to the country and they're like, well, we're going to have a farm and we're going to
a simple, quiet life.
It's simple, quiet life. Y'all are badly fooled. Because if you think you're going to constantly have time to sit on your back porch and look off at the view or whatever, well, good luck to you. I mean, and then you can if you don't do anything else. If you just live at your house and you don't do anything, you can have time to sit there and enjoy that. But, don't go into it saying, well,
thinking it's going to be easy.
Thinking that's the way it's going to be all the time. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of times that we'll sit back and we'll enjoy the back porch. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that comes last after everything else is done.
Yeah. But like he said, I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either. I like the fast and rushing life of doing what we do. That's what keeps me motivated.
It keeps you in shape.
Well, and it also, that's how I deal with burnout is I find something else to do.
Yeah, find something to change it up a little bit.
Yeah, find something to change it up a little bit. And I'll do more, which I know that sounds completely opposite. Y'all, when we were trying to grow a bunch of produce and all those meat chickens and all those eggs, we literally didn't have time to sit down.
You didn't have time to do nothing.
Now, if you're going at it at a pace like that, it's very easy to get burnt out on.
If you don't have help, we didn't have.
It was just us.
It was just
and our
us.
kids at that point were still too little to do much.
Mm-hmm. It was just us.
So we were lugging them around with us everywhere we went. It was tough.
I'm glad we're out of that season of our life.
Are you? I do miss growing all that stuff. I don't miss the chickens. I don't miss the egg chickens. I don't miss the meat chickens. I don't miss none of that. But I do miss looking out and seeing several long rows of green beans.
I bet you do.
You know, and you were the one that had to pick them and not me.
I don't miss picking them. But anyways, guys, I guess that's going to about wrap up today's video. We thought it would be fun just to sit down and do a little chit-chat, and it don't look like the pigs are making their way out just yet. So.
Yeah, we'll probably fool with them here in a little while. We'll let them. It's about lunchtime, ain't it?
Yeah.
I feel like it is.
But anyways, guys, till we see y'all in the next one.
Y'all have a good one.
Have a good one.
We may never see him again.